What's up? It's Emily. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. I have COVID. Thank you. Yesterday I felt like I was run over by a bus. Today I am feeling so much better, but my throat is a little raucous and saucy. Excuse all of the outside noise. I have the windows open to circulate the air. Please excuse any sickly behavior I demonstrate. It is fall, officially. I honestly can't believe it's almost the end of September. Like, that went by so fast. There was like a hurricane. I think by the time I got up here it was a tropical storm, but between having to like cuddle up, being sick, which wasn't fun, but just having the rain and everything, like it made me excited for fall in a weird way. So I thought I'd make a video sharing my top 10 fall romance books. Kind of just get snug and get cozy with, and like get your little chai tea pumpkin spice that you like and just cuddle up with it. I also made a video with my fall TBR if you want to check that out, which has more genres on it, but this specific video is just for cozy romance recommendations. I'm not making any sense. I have COVID brain. Let's just start. The first book is A Walk to Remember by Nicholas Sparks. It is a Nicholas Sparks book, so you should expect to cry. I actually included this book in my Books to Ugly Cry To video that I made a few weeks ago. As you can see, like, the cover is very autumnal. The two main characters are in high school. Automatically, whenever I read a book and the main characters are in high school, it feels a little fall-like to me, just because I associate that with like being back to school. I feel like I'm just not gonna make any sense in this video. I guess I'll just read the summary here. It was 1958 and Landon had already dated a girl or two. He even swore that he had once been in love. Certainly the last person in town he thought he'd fall for was Jamie Sullivan, the daughter of the town's Baptist minister. A quiet girl who always carried a Bible with her school books, Jamie seemed content living in a world apart from the other teens. She took care of her widowed father, rescued hurt animals, and helped out at the local orphanage. No boy had ever asked her out. Landon would never have dreamed of it. Then a twist of fate made Jamie his partner for the homecoming dance, and Landon Carter's life would never be the same. Being with Jamie would show him the depths of the human heart and lead him to a decision so stunning it would send him over the road to manhood. No other author today touches our emotions more deeply than Nicholas Sparks. I also really just love reading like emotional books in the fall, just because I feel like summer is such a time of like happiness and like we're living and it's summer and it's fun, and then fall, you know, we get into like Scorpio season, you know, weather gets colder, the days get shorter, it's time to cry. And A Walk to Remember is the perfect book for that. The next book I have is the first book of the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I definitely recommend reading all of them. To start you off with, I'll recommend the first one. It is kind of like a variation on the Beauty and the Beast story. When 19-year-old huntress Feyre kills a wolf in the woods, a terrifying creature arrives to demand retribution. Dragged to a treacherous, magical land she knows about only from legends, Feyre discovers that her captor is not truly a beast, but one of the lethal, immortal fairies who once ruled her world. At least he's not a beast all the time. As she adapts to her new home, her feelings for the fairy Tamlin transform from icy hostility into a fiery passion that burns through every lie she's been told about the beautiful, dangerous world of the Fae. But something is not right in the fairylands. An ancient wicked shadow is growing, and Feyre must find a way to stop it or doom Tamlin and his world forever. You have to read this book and this series. I do think autumn is a great time to dive into fantasy. The next book is a lesser-known Colleen Hoover book called Confess, and it is a very, very quick read. This is one of those books I had no expectations for and like absolutely loved it. Auburn Reed is determined to rebuild her shattered life, and she has no room for mistakes. But when she walks into a Dallas art studio in search of a job, she doesn't expect to become deeply attracted to the studio's artist, Owen Gentry. For once, Auburn takes a chance and puts her heart in control, only to discover that Owen is hiding a huge secret. The magnitude of his past threatens to destroy everything Auburn loves most, and the only way to get her life back on track is to cut Owen out of it. But can she do it? I had a lot of very like strong visceral reactions to this book. Like, I remember there was one character that I hated, and I loved like the two main characters, and it was very snug. This actually won Best Romance in 2015 on Goodreads. The next book is like the cutest book ever. If you're looking for like literally a chai tea latte in a book, it is this, Legends and Lattes. This is also a fantasy book, but not in the normal sense. Like, I feel like most fantasy books now, it's like we're battling a dark evil force and like the main characters getting the forces of good together to battle against the evil king or the evil queen. It's not like that. It's like so low stakes for fantasy. It's about this creature. Her name is Viv. She's an orc. And I think she used to fight monsters or dragons or something, and she's like retiring. She goes into this city, and nobody there has ever had coffee before. They don't know what coffee is. They've never had it. And so she opens the first coffee shop and like introduces coffee to the city. And that's pretty much it. I mean, there's some conflict. It's, compared to most fantasy books, like very low stakes, and it's just like the most snug book I think I've ever read. It's pretty much strictly snugness, and I like really highly recommend checking this out. Next is another Colleen Hoover book. It's also a series. It's called the Maybe Someday series, and God, I loved the series so much. Like, being with these characters for 3 books was so special. I loved them so much. The 3rd book dragged like a little bit, like it was a little longer than it needed to be, but other than that, like it was like the most heartwarming, like snug thing I've literally ever read in my life. So I'll just give you the summary for the first one because I don't want to give anything away. The second one's very short. It's a novella off of like 2 kind of like more supporting characters from the 1st and 3rd books. So it's a very quick series to read. Like, I think I read the whole series probably in like a week or something. It starts out with this girl Sydney, and she finds out that her best friend slash roommate Tori is like having an affair with her boyfriend, and so she moves into this apartment across the street, meets just this whole new group of people that are very snug. Especially if you're like a musician or like if you're like a songwriter in some way, I think you'd really enjoy this book because there's like a band and the characters write songs and it's very snug. How many times can I say snug in this video because I'm too tired to think of another word? Okay, the next book is definitely a hyped up book, and that's The Love Hypothesis. This is a very quick read. It's basically like this fake dating trope. All of this girl is trying to convince, I think, her best friend that she's like good and that she's dating and that she's fine. I think it's her best friend that she's trying to convince. And so like she panics and kisses the first man that she sees, who just happens to be a professor at her school. And he's like kind of like a known asshole around the campus. Like, he's very hard on the students, gives very harsh feedback, and just doesn't really have a lot of love in his teaching styles, I guess. But yeah, but they fake date anyway. And then Olive has to like do this like a conference, and it gets complicated, and it's a fun fake dating trope. Like, if you like that trope, this is definitely a book for you if you haven't already read it. And if you have read it, I hear Ali Hazelwood's other books are similar, so you should check those out as well. The next book is ironically the book of the summer, but I think it would have been better suited for the fall, and that's Fourth Wing. I liked this book, but I wasn't like completely absolutely blown away like everybody else was, and I think that's because I read it right after I read the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, so like it had a lot to live up to. Yes, it was a good book, and it has some spicy moments. The way it ended, I'm excited to read the next book in the series when it comes out. I think I'd give it like a 4-star, maybe 4.5, but like everyone was like 5-star, this is the best book I've ever read. Like, I did not feel that way, but it was good, and I still recommend it, obviously, because it's in this roundup. It's about this girl Violet who was supposed to enter like the scribe quadrant in this world when you're ready to like go into school. I guess it's like a higher level of school. You either enter like the scribe quadrant, which is like the historians, like they're writers. There's like the healer quadrant too, and then there's the writer quadrant, who 70% of the people that enter that quadrant die basically, and you have to like learn how to ride a dragon, and those are the people that protect the land. And so she was supposed to enter the scribe quadrant, but her mom is like the general, one of the greatest riders of all time, and she basically like made her last minute go into the rider quadrant. So it's basically about her trying to survive and not get killed every day, but there is romance, and I don't want to say with who or whatever because I don't want to give it away. The setup of the romance works out really nicely, and it does have some spice. And then ironically, a big reason why I think I didn't really like this book is because I thought it was actually going to be a beach read. and that book is Beach Read by Emily Henry. I was reading it and I was just like, this is such a fall book. This is so poorly branded. Basically, it's like these two people that live next door to each other, January and Augustus, and January is like a best-selling romance novelist, and Augustus is an acclaimed writer of literary fiction, and so they kind of make this deal that they can write each other's next book. And I think they like went to high school together or something and were like arch nemesis, kind of enemies to lovers, I guess I would say. But it really has like strong autumnal vibes. Like, it is not a beach read at all. If you even have read this but you read it a long time ago, I would recommend reading it again if you want to in the fall, because that is when I believe this book was meant to be read. The next book is The Bodyguard. It's about this woman who is a bodyguard basically, and she gets hired to guard this guy, this famous actor, like Brad Pitt level, look-wise and fame-wise. He doesn't want his family to know that he has a bodyguard, so it is like a fake dating trope. She has to pretend that it's his girlfriend, and she goes and lives with him and his family, and it's very cute. I laughed out loud, I cried. This book was like so unexpected, and I really, really love Catherine Senner's writing style, and I'm really looking forward to reading her next book, Hello Stranger, which I have. And I think that, from what it sounds like, would also be a good fall romance if you're looking for another Catherine Senner book to read. And then the last book is so snug. When people talk about Colleen Hoover, I feel like they rarely mention this book, but I love this book so much. It's called All Your Perfects. It's about this couple, and it takes place in 2 time periods with them. The first time period being when they first met, and the second time period being 7 or 8 years later. It's just like the different problems that they have in both of those time periods. It's just the snuggest. I wept when I read it. It's very, very sweet. I really, really enjoyed it. Anyway, those are my 10 fall romance book recommendations. Thank you guys so much for watching. Apologies again if I'm a little low energy today. Let me know if you read these or if you have any other fall romance recommendations in the comments below. I'll see you guys on Friday. Ew, you don't want me to kiss you, I have COVID.